Over to you, Avisha.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Avisha Desai, the Group Project Director at Messe München India for the trade fair PACMAC Asia Expo, which is an international trade fair for the processing and the packaging industry. This trade fair will be organized in Mumbai later this year, which will bring together the decision makers and the innovators from the industry to learn and discuss the networking opportunities. On behalf of Messe München India and on behalf of our partners, the Institute of Packaging Machinery Manufacturers of India, IPMMI, a warm welcome to all our panelists and our participants. We find ourselves in an extraordinary circumstances because of this pandemic, which has also forced us to come out of our comfort zones and push the way we are running our businesses today. The webinar is one such platform which was bringing the experts together and to discuss on the pressing topic, which is the future of packaging machines. I'm sure you will receive some very good insights from the discussion that follows today with our expert panelists. And I also would like to thank all the participants for an overwhelming response to this webinar. It is now my pleasure to introduce our expert panel from the biggest brands in the industry in no particular order. Mr. Niranjan Sohani, who is an independent consultant at Logitech Solutions and ex-director and head at Hindustan Unilever Limited. Mr. Karam Rehani, who is an independent automation consultant at KVR Consulting and ex-head at Hindustan Unilever Limited. Mr. Subramaniam Prasanna, who is a faculty member at IMTMA Design Institute and ex-head at ITC Limited. Mr. Gopal Bhandari, Director at Smart Factory Solutions, which is part of ClearPack. Mr. R. Ramanathan, COO and Director at Parley Global Technologies. And last but not the least, our moderator for today, Mr. Samir Limaye, who is the President at IPMMI. I would also like to introduce the committee of our partner IPMMI, starting with Mr. Limaye as the President, Dr. Sharayu Sawant, who is the President nominee at IPMMI, Mr. Mahendra Mehta, past at IPMMI, and Mr. V. Krishnan, the past President at IPMMI. Now, before I hand it over to Mr. Limaye, I would quickly like to share a glimpse of our launch event of PACMAC, which we did earlier in this year. So can we have the video quickly?
Sure.
Synergy between IPMMI and MMI is wonderful. Messe München brings in the international capability in terms of organizing the events and the trade shows. And IPMMI, as an exclusive body which represents the Indian machinery manufacturers, brings in the expertise and also the machinery manufacturers to the platform. And I'm sure this synergy and the strategy of coming together will bring tremendous amount of strength and achieve scalability. Me and my company, Wimco, as an IPMMI member, are going to be there in Mumbai at PACMAC Asia Expo 2020 in December.
Ring Technology is by itself is a successful exhibition, and because of the visitors of Ring Technology coming in to PACMAC Asia this year, because we are in the same hall, obviously this exhibition will go to a different level.
It's fantastic to know about the collaborative and IPMMI about this PACMAC. I wish them great luck. this exhibition which is going to happen, PACMAC, I think it's going to create history.
The partnership of Messe München and IPMMI is very good. I think 5 years from now, this venture will flourish to become a wonderful venture.
Well, it's a very amazing combination. Yes, we would be participating in the show.
So much. And one last thing, I'm sure with discussions today, our participants will have a lot of questions. So I would request all of the participants to pose their question in the Q&A box, which you see at the bottom of your screen. So over to you, Mr. Limay.
Yes, one more thing. I would also request Dr. Sharayu to, put your video on off so that, because the panel discussion is starting in. Thank you.
Thank you, Avisha. Thank you, Ankit. A very good afternoon to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this webinar. On behalf of IPMMI, let me take this opportunity to thank each one of you for giving us your precious time and attention. We also thank Messe München India for helping us to organize this wonderful webinar to help industry and fraternity. Few months back, all of us were planning our annual budgets. Most of us were looking at the tasks which are required to be completed towards the Q4, or more specifically in the month of March. Few months back, many of us had booked our ticket, and today on 7th of May, we were supposed to be in some other country. And I'm sure all of you know what I'm saying. Many of us must have planned holiday with their respective families. But welcome to the VUCA world. This term was coined maybe about half a decade back by an industry captain. But the real meaning of what is VUCA world is being felt and understood now. This deadly virus has compelled each one of us to look into various aspects, discuss, discover, deliberate, decide the direction where we are going. We as a fraternity come from packaging machines. The entire supply chain, operations, and the brand management ultimately gets packed on our machines. In this difficult time, if these machines are not running in respective companies, it would have been very difficult. With these thoughts, we were just wondering and thinking as to what do we do and how do we go forward. Future of packaging machine is the topic of discussion for today. For next 60 minutes, we would like to dwell upon various aspects of packaging machines. Needless to say, with the wonderful, illustrious background our speakers and panelists have, 60 minutes would have been difficult to cover even one topic. But the whole idea was to get a glimpse and overview about the overall packaging machine perspective, look at the past, look at the present, and at least listen to them and draw from their experience as to what is going to be the future. With this and not much ado, I must thank all our panelists and get going with the very first question, which I would like to ask all the 5 panelists, and I request each one to give me a response. Now, in this kind of a situation where we are, what are immediate thoughts going on in your mind for individuals, for the industry, for economy and the country? Maybe if I can ask Mr. Sohni to begin with, and one by one, each panelist gives me and my other colleagues and also the participant an overview what they have in their mind. Over to you, Mr. Sohni.
Right. Hello. Hello, everyone. First of all, I thank IPMMI in inviting me here to share the views. I'm not so much of the person who will talk about the economy and the country and the industry in a way, but definitely about consumer and our packaging machinery domain. I'm more of a technical background person. So rather than giving the economic perspectives of the current crisis, I would look at it more from the point of view of what are the challenges, and more so, every challenge will also give rise to some opportunities. And how we as a group of technocrats meet that challenge and take benefit of the opportunities to come out stronger out of this situation. And I think today's panel will, I'm sure, deliberate on these things and find out technical solutions by which we can overcome the crisis and come out stronger.
Thank you. Maybe Mr. Bhandari, if you can add to what Mr. Soni said.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I think most important that what we have learned from this crisis is that how dependent we are on China. All the supply chain routes in China. I mean, every supply chain has some route in China, and therefore many countries have asked their respective companies to look for expanding somewhere else or moving out of China, and thus India poses in a very good opportunity for many of those companies because it has got good market, talented people that we all know at all the levels, and thus India is a big opportunity. India, I mean, there should be a big opportunity for India in coming months or perhaps in 2021. Now, coming back to this situation, most important that I see as a machinery manufacturer is that remote diagnostic, which means supporting the customer from somewhere else because service engineers cannot reach, and thus it's very very important for still the manufacturer to understand what's going on, and remote diagnostic together with the digitalization would be the key, and all of us have to adapt to this new reality. And last but not least is the consumer, who's the king of everything. And e-commerce is definitely something which is going to take big chunk out of our normal shopping. And thus, we as a packaging manufacturer have to cater to this new reality or new dimension. It's not a threat, but it's a new dimension. So that's my take on this.
Thank you. How about you, Mr. Rehani? We would love to listen to you. Mr. Rehani?
Well, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Let me at the outset say that, like Mr. Bhandari said, there will be huge opportunities available both for the end user at the same time for the OEMs in the country. If you look at the data that we have been exporting, and the growth rate has been about 2.8% and totaling about 193 million, I think the last figure I have, exports of the packing machines from the country, while the import was always about 3.94% at around 441 million. And the last, I think, 1 or 2 years, the major shift has taken place that Italy has displaced Germany as far as the import is concerned of the packing machines. China is about 17% of the import in the country. Now, looking at the sentiments and also probably the overall environment post-COVID, there would be huge opportunities both for I think, displacing the Chinese import. At the same time, more exports in the other countries, from the our side. Other thing that I feel is that the solutions would be, people would not like to ask only for the equipment. They'll be looking for the end of the line solutions as complete package.
Mm-hmm.
That will also open up a lot of collaborative working at our end, say between the equipment manufacturers and the conveyors, or it could be, the robotic kind of a thing, automation vendors, technology suppliers, like that. And underlying this, looking at probably the way we are going, the digital transformation is probably would be the most essential thing which would be needed to meet these challenges coming time?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rayani. Mr. Subramania, your take, your perspective on the current situation.
You'll have to unmute yourself, Mr. Subramania, first.
Mr. Subramania, you need to unmute your microphone.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Please.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm not an economist to forecast what is going to happen for the global economy and in India, the Indian context, what happens to Indian economy. But as per majority of economists, in general, global economy will take about 2 years to recover, minimum at least 2 years to recover. In this context, of course, it will be applicable to Indian economy as well. Hence, the disposable income available with the consumer will get reduced. Obviously, he will spend less on non-essential items. In view of this, there could be impact in the consumption of consumer durables and personal care product, and hence machinery builders who are getting to this segment. But I have some hopes on pharma and food, where they come out with some major investments. And it is going to be a tightrope walk for machine builders. However, one hope what I have is, India is already trying its best to become one of the major manufacturing hubs for global market. In this direction, government is already working on it and inviting many foreign companies to relocate their manufacturing facilities to India. If this happens, it could lead to increased demand for our machines, both in domestic and overseas markets. For this to happen, our manufacturers have to get up to upgrade the machines by incorporating better and new productivity enhancement features, and also the technology platform they have to upgrade in the context of automation to make them export worthy. Then they can compete with the foreign offers and then capture the market to some extent. It's not just the domestic market, they have to eye even the export market to really get that benefit of this situation. That's what I would like to say.
Thank you, Mr. Subramania. Mr. Ramanathan, your take on this?
Yeah, good afternoon, all. Thank you very much for this invitation. It's a pleasure being here. We, with the mission of engineering solutions for healthcare, we serve the pharma and food and beverage industries. At this hour of crisis, I must tell you that many of the companies that we serve, who have actually turned to be the salute-worthy brave warriors, like our dear cops and doctors, and many of those great humans who are out amidst this pandemic, giving their best for the society, medicines and food. Wishes to all for being safe. See, the situation around us today is not something that we have ever experienced. It's an exceptional, uncalled for experience. Every medium or every channel, there is no other news other than this pandemic. We all know this. I should say it's the worst and the third disaster after the 2 world wars in 100 years in the history of the world. In my view, be it the industry, country, or the economy, or its economy, it all matters what is on the ground to its people. So there is so much of information that is circling and cycling around all of us. There are many health tips, suggestions, check and care points to be adapted and that are being shared. But the fact of the matter is, people are in crossroads. In India, the per square feet density of population, we all know, is one among the highest in the world. I'm sure many want to get back to work. They are bothered about with 2 major factors: fear on themselves and that of their loved ones. If they could get infected, that's their biggest concern. This would demand probably a mass psychological counseling, even if when things get back to normal, once this havoc is over. But on the other side, thing to be pleased about, to some extent, we all of us are not in those very difficult time industries like tourism, banking, real estate, retail, or auto, etc., where the impact is much, much more. Sad to say this, but we are blessed to be one in the essential sector, the pharma and the food. Even if there is an impact, it is bound to revive and thrive for better. From an opportunity point of view, as all others said, as we know that due to the dependency of the world on China, trillions of outputs have been already lost. The scene of world's delay in re-engaging with China is bound to lead to a great chance for economic revival in India. And whether we'll be able to keep up with this with a pace like China, but we will be able to reduce the trust gap that we have between businesses and the government here. And I'm sure we'll really make the ease of doing business in the real sense. But in all, the industry has to relook, reassess, reorganize, and business outlook has to get changed. That's my.
I fully agree, Ram. And let me stay with you, and let me put my very first question as a part of the panelist to you, and let me stay with you.
Okay.
Part of the question you have already answered by sharing your thoughts about going forward.
Right.
But before we look at future and go a little beyond into deeper aspects of machines and designs and the equipment, there is something which is required to be done here and now. You have immense knowledge, and also from a fraternity, you provide solutions to food and pharma. How B2B industry like ours, which actually gives equipment, machines, solutions, and there is a direct human contact with the end customers on his shop floor. How is our fraternity dealing this challenging situation right now?
Okay. Sameerji, on a lighter note, during my school time, I used to look at the length of the questions. If it was short, my answers were short, and if it was long, I will write it for long. So your question being long, anyway, I'll try to respond it short. Okay, I will take this question on us, being one among those packaging industries serving the pharma and food. What we did, making equipments for our esteemed customers, how did we see and go through this challenging times, though it was a new uncalled for experience, as I said. How did we face it? What safety measures we took? I'm sure it is a sharing that can probably help all facing this tough time on hand. So as I said earlier, many of the companies that we serve have braved this current fearful scene, and they were working in 90% presence in their facilities. And we could manage to being an essential support provider to the essentials providers, like the pharma and food. We could manage to secure permissions with mammoth exercises to work at an average of about 25 to 30% of our force across our 5 manufacturing facilities located in Ahmedabad and Mumbai. Permissions had to be availed from all local bodies, police, and to run the plant of the vehicles, staff buses and cars, etc. And as you said, Sameerji, the biggest challenge was more and much to do because it was the end of the year and last few days were left, and the closing year was coming still closer. But there were less and constrained resources. So we had to plan in bits and pieces to bring the bigger picture. Social distancing was a massive challenge, especially to bring it into practice was really mind-boggling. I don't know if I'm putting it right. The way we have been brought up or have presented ourselves to the world could not probably permit us to the very essential demand of staying distanced, the so-called social distancing. We had to go through enormous of it. Even though our buses occupancies were less than 50% with isolated sitting arrangement, but in spite of reiterating the importance of social distancing and making them follow was a very big challenge. As public transportations were not available, we had to send vehicles to our houses, pick and drop them back. At the same time, since there are also many of the pharma companies who have been very active during this period, we had a sudden surge in the increase in our hydroxychloroquine tablets, which is one of the, because we being one of the tablet tool producers, leading tablet tool producers, we got a lot of activities on the hydroxychloroquine tablets. Some 10 top pharma companies wanted us to initiate the work in situation of this curfew and lockdown. We supported them, they also supported letters from the authorities. And our HR and admin took it straight on, got the people in place. Though the normal delivery lead times were about 6 weeks, we got them done in about 3 weeks, just due to preempted stocking activities and also an excellent planning done by the people, because the more or less we have, less the brains, and lot of things could be done. But I must also thank our management, because for them the human care is the priority. So a lot of orders had to be kept aside and the importance was given to this hydroxychloroquine. So your priorities have to get changed during this situations. And even we could bring many of our vendors into this wagon of supporting the drive of pharma customers.
Sure.
So they also came to support us. We had to make them to get into this mood.
Sure.
Apart from this, safety was another big aspect. So bringing people to the factory was not alone the job, but we also had to take care of the temperature sensors, stopping the biometric entries, sanitizers at shop floor, and the local language charts on precautions, etc., etc. And a lot of stocks of each of them, whether it is mask, gloves, total cleaning of the workplaces. Many of these things had to be continuously done. Even to the extent of restricting the entry of visitors, routine inquiries, counseling of people, even the access to the sanitizers, hand rub dispensers. So a lot of them had to be done by us to make things happen. One more point which Sameerji you said is when there was no physical support possible to customers, which is one of our critical area, we did a lot by supporting them staying connected, by being online, hearing out on issues, settling on any problems over calls, WhatsApp videos, and many other mediums. To that extent, we had made a lot of handouts. We still make a lot of handouts. We are working on the video manuals, even remote assistance, which was actually not possible in some cases. So these areas we still try to strengthen ourselves. And a lot more part went into the online training as much that we could give to customers to make them continuously keep working. To that extent, even for those machines where during this lockdown, they were really under lockdown, if the customers were to start them back, we also had to make some handouts to see how they are put into operations back. So a lot of work went through the entire process that we did, Sameerji.
Sure. Sure. Thank you, Ram. While we take our panelists and the subject forward more into the deeper and we drill down into each aspect, now difficult times bring out the best from humans. And we've seen that, and that is what exactly, Ram, you narrated. And I understand many things which we were not used to. But when it comes to machine, and I'm moving to Mr. Subramania specifically to understand, handled global vendors, those who have given top-class machines.
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Rich experience.
Before we could move in, can we have a couple of round of poll questions?
We can have one insertion right now.
Yes.
Finish this question, and then you can insert this poll question, which will help for Mr. Subramania to also understand the perspective and the context.
Sure.
So taking forward what Ram mentioned, and machine design, Mr. Subramania, you have handled global suppliers, vendors, OE, equipment providers, and needless to say, the best practices in terms of the material of construction, the tolerances or the heat treatment or the design aspects. See, ultimately, many of the top of the line Indian FMCG or food and beverages companies have looked at West. Now, needless to say, reliability being one of the biggest important factor, apart from speed and sophistication. How you would like to guide our fraternity, which is packaging machinery? I know 5-7 minutes is a very limited time, but we will dive deep into each subject as we go along in future webinars. But after this survey poll, we would love to listen to you, Mr. Subramania, about these aspects of the designing. Ankit, over to you.
Sure. Riya, can we have, yes, Riya, can we start the poll, please? So I would request all the participants, you will get the poll questions in front of your screen. You are requested to answer. Here is the first question. As per your assessment, by when do you see the economic situation in your industry will normalize? Options are June 2020, September 2020, December 2020, and March 2021. Okay. Can we have the answers now, Priya?
Is it instantaneous?
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah, can we please have the answers? Yes. Okay. So majority of the people, there is a tight breakup between December and March, December 2020 and March 2021. Okay. One more question before we move down to the this thing. Can we have one more question, please?
Sure, sure. That helps Mr. Subramania to gather his thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. What would be the scenario of packaging machinery and equipments purchasing during or post COVID-19? So what do you think? The purchasing will increase, the purchasing will decrease, or purchasing will remain same as before? Can we have the answers now? Wow. For all the machinery manufacturers, 44% of the participants feel that the purchasing
We are
will
delighted,
increase.
Ankit.
Yes. Okay, now over to Mr. Subramania. Thank you.
Over to you, Mr. Subramania, please.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, directly I will get into the point. That means if I shorten your question, it is more about enhance the performance level, that is in terms of operating efficiency and the reliability. I'll address that. Yeah, I consider six major factors for ensuring the operating performance of the machine. That is, there are six major factors. 4 are related to the machine builder and 2 are related to the customer. The factors which are related to the machine builder are basically machine design, which has a major role to play. In fact, more than 50% of the failures, as per one study, says more than 50% of the failures happen because of inner design. That means machine design is like a pillar for ensuring the performance level of the machine. That is very important. Next, quality control, the way the equipment is built in the shop floor, that is component manufacture. How do you exercise quality control during manufacture of parts, assembly, sub-assembly test, then final testing of the machine. That's very, very important. That ensures that the design is transformed to the final product meticulously. Then customer training plays a very important role to ensure that the machine is operated properly the way the machine builder wants. The way the machine has to be operated is properly operated with effective customer training. That is very, very important. And last but not the least is the spare support. That means how fast you supply the spare and what is the quality of spares. Consistency of quality is very, very important. You just take out the part and put the new part, and without any adjustment, it should run. So you should be 100% sure that the parts are interchangeable. To achieve that is not easy. That means you need to have a very good control over the quality of components, especially the tolerancing and limits and the dimensional accuracy, geometrical accuracy is very, very important. That's what has to be looked at. That we have experienced with European machines. But other two parts, which we don't, as machine builders, we don't have control, are the skills that is deployed to run these machines. That is not under our control. Anyway, the customer has to be advised to deploy the right quality of skills so that they can be trained properly to run the machine in a better way. And also the work practices employed by the customer. That means that is very, very important. Some other factories, they have good work practices, others may not have. So that means a machine once established, you are not sure that it will work the same way in all the locations. That's the problem. And the other important aspect is maintenance. How religiously the customer is following the maintenance schedules recommended by the supplier. That's very, very important. Anyway, the points related to the customer, I don't want to discuss because that is not under the control of machine builder. Coming to the machine design, as I told earlier, it has a major impact in controlling the failures. In fact, what we normally do is, while taking up a new machine, we associate with one of the close customers so that it will be almost like some joint effort to develop a new technology where he will give the right inputs for us in unknown areas. Basically, the designer has to first interact and understand closely the operating issues by interacting with the domain experts in operation and maintenance areas. So that will give him some clear idea about the operational and maintenance requirements of the machine. Once that is done, he also should understand the industry specific needs. Certain industries have certain rigorous requirements, which if he does not foresee in advance, that will be a major rework later. That has to be looked into. And especially when it comes to flexible machines, where current machines are offered for different formats, like 3 or 4 formats, in order to ensure that they smoothly change over to different formats quickly, we have to understand their requirements and get an approval on the system what you are giving, so that there is no major rework of the entire design at the final stage. That's very, very important. And with this, all these things, you design a machine which is shop floor friendly. That is, both the operation people and the maintenance people love to have that machine in their shop floor. That's what I would like to mention. And coming to the design, which is a very important part actually, some of the basic requirements the designer has to keep in mind is, especially when you're designing a contemporary machine or a machine which is required with a lot of stringent quality control on the product. He has to keep in mind that he has to design a machine at least 10% higher than the maximum operating speed. That is one of the major requirements that he has to keep in mind. That is while designing the drives, the cams, the linkages, the other format parts, whatever he is looking at, like sealing and all these things, he should ensure that it is fit enough to run at 10% higher than the operating speed. That is like a designer safety margin. Second one is changeover kit design. So there actually it should facilitate quick and accurate changeover to different formats within a short time. That is something which he has to look at. Basically, he has to borrow some ideas from imported machines if he doesn't have that details. Also, he can interact with the customer. He can give some inputs, very valuable inputs. In fact, we can get from operators also. Then, wherever possible, provide appropriate sitting gauges so that the skill level required to change over is not high. So de-skill some of the operations so that it becomes easier for the customer to manage the changeover frequently. That's very, very important. And also when you design the system, keep in mind that you have to give a machine which will require very low or no maintenance for a long period of time. How do you do that? Normally what we do is we go for maintenance-free bearings wherever possible. Bearings are a big nuisance in any machine. If you take a normal size machine, at least there will be about 150 or 200 bearings. So most of the bearings, if you go for maintenance-free, like lubrication-free bearings, you have sealed or sealed bearings, anti-friction bearings wherever possible. In case if it's not possible, and you provide proper lubricant system, that means you have continuous lubrication system with proper sealing. All those things can be provided. And when it comes to dynamics of the machine, it's very, very important to take care of this aspect, because the overhang loads wherever possible, you have to minimize or reduce drastically. That is something by design you can do that. Wherever you have drive element projecting out like a cantilever, this one, that has to be reduced. That's one. Appropriate sizing of the bearings, sizing of the shaft, the fits, the tolerances, the method of assembly, all these things we have to look into when it comes to design. So then, wherever possible, you avoid use of roller chains for driving certain shafts. Instead of that, if you can replace it with timer belts, it's welcome, so that you take out that maintenance aspect of that. Includes the gears in oil bath. That will ensure that the gears will have a very long life, and also it reduces the noise level. In fact, noise level is an indication of the machine what you have built. So at especially higher speed with Indian machines, I have observed there is not of life, not because of the speed actually, it's because of the construction of the equipment and also the design. Because normally what we do is for higher speed machines, we never go for open cams with spring. We always go with grooved cams and sometimes conjugate cams. Conjugate cams helps to, in fact, we can take out complete play by preloading one of the rollers. So that is a very good system for high speeds. That is something we have to look at. Wherever possible, you replace open cams with grooved cams. That's what I feel. And helical gears is preferred over spur gears. That also brings down the noise level and also life will be better. And wherever possible, for functional units, you provide sensitive overload safety tripping clutches so that in case of product jams, which is not on account of the machine, it may be on account of the material what you feed to the machine. In such cases, it should be sensitive enough to trip and safeguard the machine. Otherwise, there will be breakdowns. And wherever it is possible to provide positive locking for cams or any drive element, it's better to do that in spite of having a key. Normally, what we do is we use key as a locator and then clamp it with key clamp or some other positive means of clamping so that there is no load on the key and key will have a very long life and it will act as a locator so that your timing of the machine is not affected. That is also a very important part we have to look into it. So optimize the cams so that your pressure angle is much below the permissible level. That's very, very important. And these days, it's possible to check all these things beforehand. Very easily, we can do that with the CAD software, whatever we have. And for bigger dynamic members, it's better to go for dynamic balancing. Even though the speeds are like 300, 400, it's worth it, because as the speeds increase, normally cam diameters go up to 150, 200 AR. In such cases, better to think of dynamic balancing as well. And after this, we have to coordinate, the designer has to coordinate with the manufacturing and assembly team so that whatever design objectives he has set is all achieved, and he has to ensure that critical assemblies are conforming to all the accuracy standards what he has set. Then after testing the machine and also with the product at the supplier's shop floor, it will go to the field trials. The new product, normally I recommend that it should go to a customer who is friendly with the supplier so that he accommodates certain operating issues if he encounters any for first few months. In fact, depending on the technology, the field trials can go on for a few weeks, or it could be even for a few months, like 4 to 5 months. And the machine is properly designed and built properly, the issues that come up during field trials will be fewer. In such a scenario, it's better to correct the mistakes, whatever that has happened, and ensure that all the design objectives are met in this process. And once you are satisfied that every point that has come out during field trials is addressed, then you can say this is standardized. And you take those points and put it into your design documents, properly documented. So that could be used for building the regular machines, which can be offered to any customer in the market. That is the final procedure. And after that, of course, you need to have a proper manual, design manual, maintenance and operation manual, which will have complete details what is required for the safe and the smooth operation of the machine. And of course, during the spare part of, obviously, when you supply machines over a period of 5 or 6 years, normally what is done is for any new machines the customer buys, he will ensure, he will take a undertaking from the supplier that spares and technical support will be provided for at least 10 years. Yeah. And we have this, if you keep on updating the machine over a period of next 5 or 6 years, you should be able to track the machines which you have supplied in year 1 so that we can get the right drawing for the spare, whatever is ordered by that particular customer. So that is very important. Documentation is very, very important. So how fast you supply the spare and how good is the quality of spare will determine the healthy condition of the machine. In how fast the customer also can put the machine back to healthy condition. That's very, very important. So spare support is very, very important from the point of view of ensuring the uptime of the machine at the customer place. That's it, Samir. This is
Thank you, Mr. Subramanian. I think you've touched upon very vital, but many times ignored by the fraternity, and I think the validation verification aspect also looking into. But this also throws one challenge when it comes to a complete factory. And my next question, in fact, is to Mr. Bhandari, because see, standardization, validation verification, spending time to get the design perfect, MOC perfect, and also doing the complete documentation perfect is fine. But what we have seen in the recent past is large FMCG companies, food and beverages companies, they are not looking just for a standalone machine, but they are looking for a complete line. In fact, as a part of their own transaction simplification, or to have a better handoff between upstream and downstream machine, they are looking for a complete solution. Now, we are in a wonderful country. Actually, it is not a country, it's a continent. India has such a diverse, Now, on one side, customers are constantly asking for low price. At the same time, even at a lesser price, the payback is difficult in an Indian context. But there are also customers, those who are looking for a top-class global best practices and benchmarks for a complete line which can have a good, and they are able to justify their return on investment. Now, how do you handle this dichotomy, and what is your take on this? That a standalone machine versus complete line, OE for one standalone equipment versus complete line, and how do you suggest going forward India is going to deal with this? Over to you, Mr. Bhandari.
Thank you so much. And I'm really quite impressed by the knowledge and the experience that Mr. Subramanian has shared. on design and various aspects. So I think, this is something very big insight into the machine manufacturing.
Correct.
And as you rightly said that, once you make a machine is not alone. In our packaging industry, it is a line that produces it. It is not just one machine. So, even if you have the best machine available for one of the operations, but still if the line is not efficient, ultimately your output is still going to be very limited with that. Now, from that point, let's look at, what are the scenario, say about 20 years back. We were all, the customers were most of the time integrating themselves. They would buy the equipments from few suppliers whom they know, and they would have their own suppliers for conveyors and integrate the line themselves. And that time it was very relevant to emphasize that, okay, OE was not even understood that time. Nobody knew what is OE. In fact, even now people have confused view of OE, but okay, that's a different topic. But that time what it was mostly uptime. What we're talking is, how your machine doesn't going to fault, and that is what was considered as efficiency. So I think, that was quite okay at that time because we were going through a phase, and, now last 10 years, what has happened is the critical machine supplier has become a kind of line integrator. The customer would expect him to integrate the complete line. So be it a filler manufacturer, or be it, let's say, blow molding, or blister machine. I mean, maybe they would ask the critical machine manufacturer to put together a complete line solution and give them a guarantee for the line operation, or OLE, which is overall line effectiveness. So customers are not satisfied today with just OE, because that is irrelevant in a way. Because if I just have OE well for one equipment, let's say the critical machine, but down the line, you have equipments which are not so well good, then it is not. Now, going from there, the machinery manufacturer has now to work with, okay, he might be manufacturing 1 or 2 or 3 machines, but still he has to integrate machines which are not his own manufacturing, and he has less control on them, and therefore he has to work with different manufacturers and put together a line. Now, in such scenario, Industry 4.0 or digitization plays very important role. Now, how does it play important role? Now, each of our machine, in fact, most of the machine have got very good PLC, very good HMI, and in fact, by itself, if let's say we put a good manufacturing, good fabrication, if you put one machine and an imported machine from West, it would look very similar, because today, the technology difference is not so much. So the digitization can help us bring this line integration to a next level, and which is what is needed, because you are not able to see your PLC or HMI will not be able to see the overall view of a line that is needed to guarantee the OLE. And that's where digitization helps. Smart manufacturing solutions that our company, we are working with 4 different manufacturers for providing this digitization. And during this COVID crisis, remote diagnostics is the most important, which has to be addressed. We are not at liberty to send a service engineer at a customer's call. In fact, even if we have the engineer available, he may not be able to travel, and still the work has to go on. So how do we tackle that? Again, digitization will help us in understanding the situation. And I have a use case, which I'm going to present it to you, where you could see that what are the simple inputs that it needs in order to make it to a next level. We are not talking here for adding frequency or vibration sensors. We are not talking of here expensive sensors in order to make the machine very expensive. No, it's not needed for most of the operations or most of the faults that we come across. what is needed is that a proper data which is compiled, trend is seen, and alert is generated. For that, you don't need all that expensive sensors and software and all that. It's quite possible. In my next case, I mean, what I'm going to present to you would be that. But before, I move to that, digitization is not expensive. A typical line will cost between, let's say 6 to 7 equipments will cost below 10 lakhs, maybe even 6 to 7 lakhs. It really depends. And the ROI on digitization is not 1 year, not 1 month. It's just 1 week or even less. And that's a fact. Your OE improvement from, if it increases by 10%, that's it. You have crossed all the limits. Okay, so let's just go into a use case. Now I request Ankit, if you could just turn on the slide, please.
Sure.
Oh, the first one. Can you play from the first one?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you see the slide?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So on my left-hand side, I mean, I hope you're able to see it clearly.
Yes.
But on my left-hand side, we have inputs. And these are all standard inputs. Like, we use servo motors, we use gearboxes, we use induction motors, and we have faults on a machine, which are very properly defined into our HMI. So we have all these addresses available with us to take it to the next level. And unfortunately, all this information that we have just remains in our HMI. The moment we bring it to cloud, or the moment we bring it to the next level, next platform, it becomes something else. Now let's look at it. What are the outputs we get when we do that? So we have 3 levels of alerts available to us. Now the level of I'm just talking of remote diagnostic. I'm not getting into OE, and I'm not getting into OLE, because even that is possible to do a lot of things. But let's just restrict today to the diagnostics. Now we get 3 different alerts, and 2 of these are just the trend alerts, which means if my trend is going up or going down, or what is happening, it sends me alert, sends me email message, just like how we get it in our watch. Today, if I don't walk, say I've been walking 10,000 steps for last 1 week or 1 month. If I don't walk today, I get an alert, I get a message that what happened? So it's very similar. That's what it is. It will give you alert that your parameters, what you have in your machine, it could be current, it could be torque, it could be temperature, are not right. Go and have a look at that. And this is what it will give you. Then after that, once you have it, you then drill it down. That means now you look at the time frame in which you want to see all the faults that you've encountered in that machine in a Pareto chart. Now you don't want to go through all the faults, okay, this machine was down for so much time, this digitization will help you as well as your customers to look at in the period, where is my top most fault? That's what you need to attack on. And when we go to the next slide, we will see that. But before we do that, there is also another facility that you can see, which is video analytics. Now that's so important. Most of the time, it's not just the machine that goes in fault. As we know that it is the material and the machine. And when they combine well, you have a perfect solution. So it's quite likely that the problem what you're facing may not be so much related with the machine, but could be something else. And that's where, if you have a video, which is a short video of 2 minutes attached to a fault, and if someone later on is able to just watch that clip where it tells him that how this fault started, would give him all the insight that he needs to know to solve that issue. So this video analysis will help you that. So now let's look at some of these things that I described. So Ankit, if you could just go to the next one, please. Okay. So here I have selected from 1st January until 31st January on a line where it has got 5 equipments. I'm not sure if you're able to see all: filler, labeler, case packer, case erector, and case sealer. These are the 5 equipments. This tells me that how much time I lost because of any equipment. And if I solve this, which is, filler, I solved almost 50%. Now I click on this, and now I see the faults. Those were encountered in this period on filler. And like that, I can drill down to different equipments. But even if I don't do that, if I just solve the first problem, which I have almost reduced my 50% line downtime. So this is something, which will really, let us have the right information. Now, this is another facility that you can expect or you get, where you can drill down to one particular day in which all the faults which were reported, and look at that what time which fault came. And there is also a operator input, because sometimes operator input where sometimes it's not possible for PLC to give the exact cause. So he can write his inputs in the drop down. And as you see here, now we have clicked on the capper, and we see here, what time the problem came. Okay, this is the cause that came from the PLC.
Mr. Bhandari, I'm afraid we are running out of time.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
But if you can, yeah.
Yeah, just okay. So before I go, thank you so much. And digitization is something which is not very expensive, and it can easily be incorporated. We have 90% of the things that we already have, and we just need to do sliding more in order to bring it to the next level. Thank you so much.
I agree, and thank you, Mr. Bhandari, for your take on this. But we are in a complex world, you see. And my next question will be to Mr. Sohoni, because we moved. There are machines which are 20, 30, 40 old designs. There are machines in our customers' premises where they are yet to replace them with a new technology. There are constraints, there are investment and space constraints. There are brownfield projects where people want automation. Now this brings us to a situation, and my next question to Mr. Sohoni is that while India is perpetually in this transition where machine designs, integration with upstream and downstream, these smart or let's say digital inputs. Now, I mean, from a machine manufacturer's point of view, as well as from end customer, brand owner. Over to you, Mr. Sohoni.
So hello, everybody.
Yeah, please go ahead.
We already have very lucid presentations by Mr. Subramania Prasanna and Gopal. And they had touched on 2 different aspects of running the machines at a higher efficiency.
Sure.
Mr. Subramania Prasanna dealt with machine design, maintenance, and related issues, and how good design can make a difference.
Sure.
Mr. Gopal Bhandari also talked about the way to analyze the problems while running the line, digitization, the role of digitization, and how it can pinpoint the faults, and so that you can look at a line as a whole. So very lucid presentation on that. Now, I would like to touch upon the subject from a perspective that today, in the given situation, how do we go forward as machine manufacturer, and how do we support the users of the machines? There are 2 big buckets which we can think of. One is the legacy machines. Okay, legacy machines fall into the domain of what Mr. Subramania Prasanna has also described in terms of design and what are the issues. Okay, the second is new machines, where manufacturers should put money now and approach the customers so that it makes a difference in terms of social distancing operation. Right now, if we look at the factories, there is a manufacturing part of the line, which is the process plant and some intermediate part. Then it comes to fillers and other areas, which is really the primary packaging domain, right? So if you take a top view of the manufacturing facility, the social distancing chaos is at the end of the line, right? So now today, if we look at the production and where the buyer of the equipment will want interventions from the machine suppliers, is in these 3 areas, the highest inputs will maybe required in the end of line. where there is a big cluster of people. And if you see the training profile of the people, from process plant down to the end of line, that's a decreasing level of training, a decreasing level of skills, right? So the problem accumulates maximum at the end of line, okay? So having got that idea, now we look at the first module, which is the legacy machines. Now, legacy machine, the typical scenario after COVID and even before COVID in India, that there is no money. Okay, people don't want to spend money on the legacy machines, or the budget is very, very tight. So that will continue. So how do we support as machine manufacturers this activity? So the question comes as to what are the faults which typically these machines face in terms of timing and phasing. You know, timings go out, phasing goes out, and then there are people who struggle to solve that problem. And invariably, the buyers of the machines have up to now gone for Indian machines where they will find a manpower way out of the capital. That means you will trade lower capital machines and say that we will improve the efficiency by putting huge number of people. Yeah. And that is why the challenge was how to sell a better, costlier, modular machine. Now, here is an opportunity that today, that social distancing issue is going to create a problem for those who want to find a solution, manpower solution for the lower cost machines, right? So they will approach and want kits, you know, which will improve the legacy machines by some short means. That is where the question of digitization will come, adding few sensors will come, improving the PLC to do the digitization will come. I'm talking of the existing legacy machines, right? First challenge you will face is when you as a supplier go to them and say, okay, we will do these steps. We will add double timer belts and 2 sensors so that when timing and phasing goes out, it will give a trigger and give a fault. All that, once you go with that, now to find money for that will be through the efficiency of the machine, right? So this is where we will have to work. Surely enough, the PLC integrator will come back and say that if you want to do this digitization and send the data over, the PLC model is old. You will have to go to a later version of PLC which will accommodate all this. So that gives us the solution for the future opportunity. The machines which will offer in future coming out of legacy will have to be modular, and will have to have the, at least on the controller part of the PLC part, try to buy the highest possible end PLC at least to start with, so that you don't do the expenditure later on when the buyer has money and you have will to improve the machines, right? So that solves one problem for future. So don't take a shorter model of PLC with a shorter capability. All of us who are in design and that know that even if you have everything okay, last minute the integrator will come and say, oh, PLC operating level beyond 50% is all danger. So this is now going to cross 50%, so you go for a higher processor speed, right? So this is one way out. Now going modular, I'm just going to keep it short because you can't discuss the whole design, but making it modular in the line and in the equipment is follow a distributed machine control principle. That means today you don't have a single machine with 20 cams and long chain drives which go out of phase and then you create problems. So you have distributed control. So you have servos which are at a cost optimum level. So you replace judiciously there, have shorter drive distances, what you call like in a car, short geared car. Tesla is a short geared car because there is no long power transmission, right? So when you have servo motors, you don't design the machine and put servo motor in place of main motor. No, you look at the design ground up, keep servo motor judiciously at the nearest point of the application and have a distributed control. So timing and phasing challenge moves into the control domain, not into the mechanical domain. So you can do adjustments on the remote, on the screen, on the remote diagnostics as things mature. Also, very important point, as I would suggest for machine manufacturers to look at, is very rarely the programming is modular. You ask yourself, in process control, it has been achieved that reactor program will be different, mixer program will be different. But in the machine, you have a doser, you have a filler, you have a volumetric, sometimes you have gravimetric, you have net weight fillers. All those program level, it's all single huge program inside the controller. It creates a mess for the remote support, remote diagnostic, and consequently for social distancing. So that means it has to be modular. That means you should be able to plug out the entire subroutine of a feeder and put in another, and it should work. So rest of the program remains untouched, because you, all of us will appreciate that that community of good software programmers keeps changing jobs, right? So next time you won't get same guy, and any other person, unless the program is structured and modular, will not make head or tail out of it. And that means more involvement of time, resources, which the buyer doesn't have. So build the machines ground up, distributed controls, distributed program also within the control, so that everything is modular. It is more amenable for diagnostics. It is more amenable for HMI. So this is the progression which we will have to make. Start by offering simple kits to enhance efficiency on the legacy machines.
Mm-hmm.
That will create funds for the buyer to tell you to build a ground up machine. It will also develop a confidence. You know, if you just go and say, okay, I will give you a modular, very modern machine at 5 times the price, he will say, can you improve these 2 machines which you have supplied 5 years back and 10 years back?
Correct.
I think this is the way to approach. The approach can be discussed in detail to any length, but given the shortage of time, I would like to stop it there, but say that go modular every which way, right from ground up design up to the execution, up to remote support. Then like a Schubert German company, you have machine manual in the program, key part drawings in the program. Once you have digitization, Mr. Rehani will touch upon how even spares can be ordered by the machine when it runs a particular number of hours, a belt. Yeah. So I think this is the way forward. And I think if we take these steps, then we can rightfully earn a place to compete with China or whosoever. Because if we go half-hearted here, this Chinese opportunity will not remain open for a very long time. You know? Others will grab it. So I think this is the way forward. And I wish all the listeners and participants a big luck on this and big efforts on this, so that we are all successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Soni. Needless to say, as a part of our mission to share knowledge, create platform, and also to provide platform for innovation, IPMMI as an association, we keep doing this. And I'm sure, as you rightly said, 1 hour or 70 minutes of overall time is not sufficient. But I think you, or for that matter, Mr. Gopal Bhandari, touched upon this aspect of machines from, being legacy, or let's say, if I may say, Buddhu machines to a smart machine. I think all of us would like to see smart cities, smart gadgets, smart factories, and also smart machines. Now, I mean, we are in the midst of, listening to all these new jargons or terminologies or statements, which need to be, we need to understand and how we can build around that, our packaging machines. Now, IoT, Industry 4.0, and my next question, and this thing is to the final panelist, Mr. Rehani, is that, in the midst of this pandemic and social distancing and need for automation, we are a large country. Mr. Soni also touched upon this subject of, engineers leaving jobs, and which is part of the, but I also see huge amount of job creation being done by Industry 4.0, IoT, or, artificial intelligence and machine learning, as Mr. Soni said. As someone who has invested more than 3.5 decades in this industry, your take on this, Mr. Rehani, and your perspective, we and also all our participants would like to listen to you. Over to you, Mr. Rehani.
Yes, just before Mr. Rehani starts, can we have one more poll round of questions?
Sure, that gives few seconds for him to gather his thoughts.
Yes.
Questions, Ankit?
One question.
Sure, okay. Mr. Rehani,
can we have the question?
You have this poll? Mr. Rehani, with your permission, can we have one poll right now?
Yeah, sure, please do it.
Sure. Ankit?
Yes. Priya, can we please play the poll? what are the main challenges that your company is facing during COVID-19? Is it supply chain challenges, lack of raw materials, lack of manpower, or lack of service support? Can we have the answers now? Majority of the people are saying supply chain challenges. Yes, over to you, Mr. Rihani. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankit. Over to you, Mr. Rehani.
Thank you, my colleagues in the panel, for setting the context right. Now there's a lot of buzz about, I think, this IIoT. Actually, it started with this, like you can say, the smart manufacturing a couple of years back, and then caught on with the Industrial Revolution 4.0, and now getting onto the Internet of Things. Now today we say it has become Internet of Everything. It's surprising to see that the growth in the connected devices, the percentage is about 30% year on year. And as on today, probably this year will be touching about 25 billion devices which are connected onto the internet. It could be like the domestic devices, industry devices, your phones, your laptops, you name it, everything is like, and probably the countries like, which are advanced, they have taken the leap, I think, in taking the lead into the taking advantage, creating new markets through innovations, and leading the gaps, I think, for the countries like India, much behind it. But nevertheless, coming back to our realm, which is the packing machines. Now, any industry, the packing line or the packing hall is generally a showpiece. If you see, the best of, I think, the spacing, the best of, I think, the displays, the best of, I think, the hygiene you'll always find in the packing hall. And next to the packing hall would be that where you have manual handling, generally in most of the industry, that will be behind a curtain or something. The chute is there, the product goes on the other side, and what happens, we don't know. But this post-COVID scenario, as shared by all my colleagues here, there's going to be a big challenge that we need to have more of automation. And automation is probably onto the improving the line performances. Because if the digitalization has to be driver, it has to result into something which is very substantial and real. So in terms of probably any investment that is put onto automation, there has to be some kind of a benefits which could be justified. There could be like a different scenario, like Mr. Soni said, the legacy systems and anything. I strongly feel that there's an opportunity for everybody. But it's more important to have a strategy in place where exactly we want to go as an organization, what exactly we want to achieve, what should be the KPIs, and what should be the approach. And then we start working in that direction, probably form a team and then take the experts, both say from the plant operatives, maintenance team, the technology supplier, and the machine builder, all put together, and then see that even say the existing system, suppose a challenge is put up to a team that we want to improve the efficiency of the line or the equipment by say 10%, what need to be done? Like Prasanna said and Mr. Bhandari said about the data, the downtime data. Why we are unable to get the performance as a date? What are the reasons that contribute? So we are able to focus on those reasons and then find the solutions, appropriate solution, which can be invested and then adopted and then implemented. So that could be like one approach, and that doesn't call a lot of investment. But say for the all OEM colleagues, the guys who actually manufacturing the machines from the end user perspective, we would like to have this kind of intelligence built into the machine henceforth. Can the diagnostic features be built into the programming? Till date, we have been dependent on the logbooks and the maybe some visualization of the data on the shop floor. And everybody who had logged in has kept some buffer, rightly or wrongly, something for the rainy day. But now when digitalization, the one advantage is that, yes, everything is the real time. Internet of Things means connected, data coming in the real time. So there is no chance for hiding anything. And when I think there is total transparency, it also tells you where exactly you are lacking, and you can take decision in the real time to explore those opportunities where we have been losing in your loss metrics and take corrective action to get the more out of your assets. Having said this, now what should be the approach? Okay, have the strategy, have some kind of like a roadmap. We can always take small steps, have modularity, flexibility, whatever is needed by the business, and then start implementing it. There could be challenges. And for the new machines, when you want to sort of looking at the customer requirement, today we talk often say about the IT-OT integration. How much of machine data we should be able to utilize for the decision at the shop floor and for the decision to be taken at the top level. That means we must look data from everybody's perspective. All stakeholders' data or needs should be built into the system. And this requires some kind of a standardized approach where you do selection of the hardware and do the programming and the program charting kind of a thing. It's important, like Niranjan said, if we do not follow standards in our programming, then we have a big challenge in troubleshooting, supporting the machine. And over the years, when people leave the job, change the job, the knowledge, experience just goes with them. So it's important. And in this context, I think we had, in the levers, when we used to interact with the machine builders, we used to always talk about machines which follow the guidelines given by OMAC, Organization for the Machine Automation and Control, a global organization, which is again not for profit, but at the same time, they have a whole set of guidelines which talks about the machine. In simple terms, if a machine has to be defined, the state, the PLC programming, the state levels need to be defined first, which are again, as per their standard, could be machine is either start, stop, fault mode, those kind of state 5 models are there. Similarly, the PACAML standards, which are again, the algorithm which need to be adopted for writing the program. And they also follow the ISA 88 base standard approach in programming. The whole function library, which could be deal with the need for electronic cams or maybe other function which is needed. And then lastly, the communication part of it. Even they talk about, say, integration of the lines using the machine. The level one of maybe integration could be using the machine which are totally like a legacy system. You only have the sensors upstream and downstream, take the data from there, pass it into the next level, so that if the queue up is there in front of one machine, the other machine just slow down. The next level could be sharing the data from the intelligent sensor onto the PLC. Third level could be the sharing the information available on the PLC onto a network. And today we talk about, say, the networks connected to the cloud, and the cloud is also connected to the enterprise level. So based on, say, the enterprise, the plan which the company has for the week, for the production, it also cross-checks the availability of the raw material, packaging material, availability of the machine as per the maintenance, and it's the past performance, skill levels of the each people, team member, and there you go. The production plan at any point of time, the top level see what is my compliance at any point of time. And the plant manager will see, yes, how the machine is performing in terms of efficiency and other thing. And the operator at the shop floor will also have the data related to when he need to lubricate and what kind of action he need to take it. The post-COVID, probably the only change I see is that, yes, we need to have maybe some more function which could be like Siri kind of a function, what we are familiar on your phones. Can we take a command on the audio command to the machines, or you must have the HMI which are like a non-touch HMIs. So those kind of things probably would be in demand. as things settle down post-COVID and we start going to the operation, the full swing. But yes, I think the opportunities and challenges are there. And lastly, I think we always have a challenge in terms of, say, justifying our investments, or getting the return on investments. So my take would be that yes, as we invest into technology and other thing, we should also look at, say, the life cycle cost of the solution, not only the first investment. When we say are doubling of the machine speeds, I have a choice, either go for 2 machines put together. Suppose I want to go from 200 units to 400 units as per the business demand. Or should I go for a machine which is 500 units per this one? So I can maybe justify 500 unit machine, that is more than double the speed, with life cycle costing concept, where I see reliability is built into this, the flexibility is there, change over time because of the deployment electronics. It could be by the press of the buttons, not the number of hours spent usually in the legacy machines. So with that kind of approach, I think we have a much better, I think, way of doing things. And when we start building these features, probably the end users are happy. Machine builder is incorporating these features at the design stage and taking care of probably the needs of the future from the other sources. There could be more opportunities for them to widen their scope in terms of marketing and reaching the markets, not only in India, maybe for the exports and other things. So with this, I end and look forward to maybe any feedback or any help anybody needs from the audience at any point of time. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Rehani. And Ankit, do we have a poll?
Yes. So we will have a couple of poll questions quickly before we move on to the final round of question. Riya, can we quickly have the polls, please?
Sure.
Okay, the first question is, do you think this is the good time to invest in product development? Yes or no? Okay, can we have the answers now?
Oh, yes.
86% people feels yes, this is the good time to invest in
correct.
product development. Okay, the next question, Riya. Do you know about the guidelines from OMAC on programming and line integration? OMAC is the organization for machine automation and controls. Yes or no? Can we have the answers now, Riya?
Oh.
76% of the people here, they don't have the guidelines. Mr. Rehani, maybe, you can share those guidelines with me, and then, after the webinar, I can share it with all the participants separately over an email if it's a documented one.
Sure.
I see it's a great point, because like we have experience while we were in HUL and post-HUL interacting with people. We have always believed, as a probably OEM, not to offend anybody, it's always been like a quick fix solution, the least cost solution, because the customer is not willing to pay. But today, when we look at, say, the larger canvas, where we see focus on reliability coming in, the functional flexibility is required, and opportunities for deploying the machines pan-globe, I think we need to follow standards like what we have been doing in our manufacturing, like what we have been doing in design. Same thing, probably the packing machine must understand, the OEMs, that we need to adopt global standards or the guidelines. These are not the standard, but they're guidelines. So we must adopt them. And once I think you do it, it's something like once you taste the blood, you have, I think, all the kills to your blood. The huge opportunities are waiting for us, provided we follow the standards and implement and take it forward from there.
Sure. So, Ankit, I think a few questions which have come up in between. We have already overshot the time.
Correct. So maybe
how do we propose? I mean, I have few questions which I can combine and then I can merge them and then I can ask.
Yes. So what I'll suggest is maybe what we can do is so we can have a couple of more whole round of questions. Until that time, you can just shortlist the questions that have come in from the attendees, and
Sure.
At that time we can just start with the Q&A.
Sure. So I have identified few questions and they are not yet covered during the panel discussion and the address by our esteemed panelist. And this is open to all of you and request Mr. Soni, Mr. Subramania, Mr. Rehani, or other two panelists, Mr. Bhandari and Ram also to answer. One is related to aesthetics and safety features in the machine, which I personally felt needs to be addressed, and it cannot be any better time than during this time when we are in COVID-19. The question says that how important is the safety features and overall look and feel of the machine. And there is another question which is, there are a couple of questions which I have merged. A gentleman said that India is an IT hub and we are talking about Indian machinery manufacturers still struggling to take it to the industry 4.0 or make it a smart machine is something which is an irony. And how do we bridge this gap in this wonderful time of COVID-19 so that we leverage our strength, which is IT being a hub of India, India being hub of IT, and machine manufacturers can get benefited. So these are two questions, and I would request any one of the panelists who would like to take an answer and enlighten our. Yes, Mr. Soni. Yes, you can unmute yourself first.
Thanks for the question. Actually, we did not touch upon the safety, but safety also as a guideline, as well as the hand-in-machine safety. There are two aspects of safety. One is the machine safety. Second is operator safety. Always there is an overriding importance to operator safety. That means hand-in-machine safety is supreme. And there is a ISO 13849 guidelines, and there are many guidelines on that. And mandated standards are there. So any machine which goes out has to be fully safety certified before it leaves your premises. And this is a point, very big point. In fact, we need to make, and I keep making it even later on when I interact with people, is there is very little concentration on this. See, it's like this. Highest attention is the machine design, okay? Then it's for electricals and controls. And then by the time it reaches the guards, yeah, the buyer is already sitting on the head for fat, So guard design and analysis and ensuring that it is first time right and thorough without, it's a foolproof, it's stupid proof, to go one step ahead. This always a safety expert is to say that foolproof is okay, it's a passive. Stupid proof is somebody who is intentionally trying to defeat, should not be able to defeat. So that is the stupid proof. So HMI, when we talk, HMI's responses as well as the hand-in-machine safety, which is called HIM, are very, very crucial. So that part of the question I wanted to answer, that it is not getting the kind of attention from the ground up stage, but it is to be thought through process. It's not simple. There was a challenge always in our factories to tell them to show and defeat the guard system. That was in the quality circles, so that people come out with different ingenious ideas of defeating the guard, and thereby how to strengthen the guards. So this machine manufacturer can't do because he doesn't have team. We had the benefit that we had the operating factory with us to work on this. So I think it is very crucial. Very important. I can't say anything more than that.
I can touch upon the next question.
Sure, Bhandari sir. Yes.
See, basically, you're absolutely right. The question is absolutely genuine that, we are the best, when it comes to IT. And there is no, I think, we have big strength in that. The machine that we have a different language. And this is the bridge between the machine language, that is PLC, and there are different protocols. The bridge between machine language to bring it to a level where it is digitized. That's where, you have this tunnel or digitization that helps, So once we do that, That means you are able to have this machine data converted into digitized. Then it's possible to take it to any level. The moment you have data on your cloud, on what you need, then I think our IT people are the best. They can give you whatever you like. I mean, it is, be it trend, be it predicting, be it AI, be it machine learning. It's all there. So this is just a small distance from machine data to the digitization. So that's where if you have that, it'll cover it.
There are a couple of questions which have come in a different form, but I'm trying to merge, and this is again thrown open to any one of you who would like to answer and give a perspective. The questions are related to skill building in India, how we can become a big force. We are a 130 crore population country with 60% of population below 25 years of age. We have immense possibility and potential, but somehow we are not able to do the scale at which China does. And here in this situation, we are talking about possibility of exploiting, exploring, and utilizing this opportunity in favor of India. What is your take on this, and how do you think the boys and girls from diploma colleges, ITI institutes, and engineering colleges need to be trained and taken forward to make India or make in India, and to meet that challenge of that scale at which China works? And I know all of you understand what I'm saying. We are nowhere near to that scale in terms of building machines or rapidly making those type of machines or churning out machines at that speed. Any one of you would like to give some perspective? Yes, Mr. Subramanian.
Since I'm interacting with fresh graduates during my course in IMTMA when I take sessions now, I clearly understand that most of the engineering colleges, not all actually, maybe some of the top engineering colleges may be having good facilities. Most of the engineering colleges, specifically in rural areas, do not have adequate infrastructure to train these engineers properly, both in terms of practicals as well as the knowledge what they gain from classrooms. In fact, the syllabus also has to be rewritten to orient itself towards industry needs. Many of the industry needs have to be plugged into the syllabus. Then only the education system will improve. Secondly, they should be exposed to more of practical work, which is not there now. Even though for the namesake they do from project work, it may not be of the standard what is expected from an engineer. Maybe if you look at some premium institutions like IITs and all, no? Students coming out of that, they do some projects, and you compare the projects done by some students from the engineering colleges, there's a lot of gap. That is because of the opportunity not given to them to orient their project towards industrial work. That's what I feel actually. So we need to do a lot of work in terms of redesigning the syllabus. Also, the faculty has to be trained. Maybe some exposure of industrial needs have to be given to the faculty so that they in turn can transfer that knowledge to the students. And secondly, it's more of theoretical orientation now. What they are doing is theoretical orientation, whether it comes to FEM or whatever is it. They have to take the actual problem and solve that. They get confidence. Maybe 1 or 2 industrial problems are given to a college and 30, 40 students look at it. And if they can think about giving practical solutions, that will be better than doing some imaginary projects which will not take off. That's what I feel actually. So they have to focus more on project work, and it's better if we give internship to them in big and reputed companies so that they will understand the standards followed in the industry, discipline followed, the work culture, everything they understand, so they become a bit mature for their age than what they are today. That's what I feel.
I agree, and I think perfect. The observation is correct. There is a huge gap which needs to be plugged between industry and institute. Thank you, Mr. Subramania, Mr. Soni, Mr. Bhandari. Ankit, we have overshot time, and do we have a survey poll now? Do we have any questions now?
Yes, yes. So I just wanted to inform all the participants that, since we have received so many questions, what we are going to do eventually is we are going to club all the questions together. The unanswered ones we are going to share with all the panelists post this webinar, and we would request them to share their views on the same questions, and thereafter we will be sharing the answers with all the participants today. And so before, we go down to the concluding part, can we have final 2 round of poll questions, please?
Yes, sure.
Yes, Ria, can you please start with you? So, do you think India will become the center of packaging machinery exhibitions post COVID-19? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, can we have the answers now? Wow. Majority of the people feel yes, India will become the center of exhibitions in terms of packaging. Thank you. Can we go down to the final poll question, please? Now, this question is basically for exhibition organizers like us. This will help us to evaluate what kind of exhibitions would the audience prefer to attend this year once the situation normalizes soon. So, is it physical, virtual, or both? Okay, can we have the answers now? Okay. So majority of the people feel virtual is the next big thing, like our topic. And of course, there are the next in line people feel okay, virtual and physical, both they would like to attend, depending upon the situation. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ankit. We are just left with a couple of minutes and a quick last concluding thought from each panelist we would like to listen before I hand over to President nominee Dr. Sharayu Sawant for a formal vote of thanks. So I request panelists to give us one quick final, a word from your side. Maybe Mr. Bhandari, you need to unmute yourself, Mr. Bhandari.
Sorry. Yes. Thank you so much for this opportunity and to be with all the panelists. It's a big opportunity, learning experience to talk in front of camera without anyone listening or at least no reaction. My take is that I think we will come stronger. Technology will change, definitely. And digitalization is something which is going to be kind of essential for all of us going forward. And that would include not just a new machine, but legacy machine, because majority of our investments is in legacy machines. So I think it has to be done at both the levels. So that's what is.
Sure. I understand. Mr. Subramanian, one final take from you.
Yeah, thank you for giving this opportunity to be among these allied panelists and also give my opinion to the participants. In fact, you have moderated very well, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
And my opinion is, yes, it is a very good opportunity for Indian manufacturers. I'm sure, I'm very hopeful that Indian manufacturers will come of age. They will try to narrow the gap between what is existing with the advanced machines and our machines. And that will help in a long way. At least another 2 years' time, I feel we'll be able to offer a benchmark a machine which is matched in the performance level of European machines and also at affordable price. With that, our market will expand beyond our national boundaries.
Thank you. Thank you. On a positive note, Mr. Soni, your final take on the subject.
Yes. Thanks once again, Samir, for the wonderful opportunity to interact with everyone. I'm sure the needle can move in the right direction because there is a support coming from this COVID situation that people can't find manpower way out of the capital, So people will be pushed, the buyer will be pushed to spend money for getting benefit of lesser people. and which will work in favor of machine manufacturers, provided they can pull it right way and give a good functional approach on that. So I'm sure that can happen.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Rehani, your views?
Well, I feel this whole lot of opportunities are there, provided there is a change in mindset.
Yeah.
We are going through a very challenging time. Now, the old set of rules will not be applicable here. We need to really look at things afresh, change our mindset, and start looking at working collaboratively with the other people with a common goal.
Sure.
So somewhere probably we need to learn to sacrifice few things for the larger goals, and we need to be very aggressive if you want to go there, because time again will be running short to achieve all this.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rehani. Ram, final.
Yeah. So as what Rehani Saab just said, like these kind of events are bound to come in the way in our process of building and contributing to the nation's economy, strengthening our business and homes. But this is not going to stop here. Such situations have to be accounted for in our business. Post-COVID, I feel it will be not the survival of the fittest, but it will be that of the quickest. Adaptability and agility will be quite important. That's my submission.
Thank you. Thank you, Ram. I have Dr. Sharayu Sawant, our president nominee. Dr. Sharayu, may I request you to offer to all our esteemed panelists and also to all our participants. Over to you, Dr. Sharayu.
Yeah, thanks, Samir. Good evening to all our reputed speakers and Messe Mention team. We all are passing through a typical VUCA conditions right now. According to our speakers, common takeaways are very much informative, and it will surely help all participants to tackle post-COVID conditions for our packaging industry. Mr. Bhandari, Mr. Rehani, Mr. Subramaniam talked about our dependency on China and future opportunity for Indian machinery and equipment manufacturers. All our panelists mentioned importance of digitalization and remote handling of machines. It was detailed information shared by Mr. Ram about industry's norms and operations to be changed if they want to up and run in current lockdown and support users, that means our customers. Insights and suggestions about machine designing, change parts, and customer support given by Mr. Subramanian are surely helpful for machine manufacturers. To design machines in such a way that we will be ready to capture this future opportunity and customers will be looking for indigenous machines as import from China will be substantially reduced as per our all speakers. Mr. Bhandari shared his views about OE and OLE, that means importance of complete end-to-end line support with smart digitalized support of service. Mr. Sohni explained beautifully about legacy machines, end-of-line machines, modular designs, and huge opportunity in this gray area where social distancing is mandatory as of now. Mr. Rehani from UMAC spoke about organizations should audit their current packaging activity and diagnose where actual chaos is and where digitalization is implemented. We need to adopt global guidance in packaging machines also. I thank you all, to our all participants for being with us at this evening. And it's been pleasure for IPMMI as well as MMI to understand views about packaging machines and the future. I further wish all of you to take care of yourself, your family members, and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And finally, I would like to state to all the participants who are still here that post this webinar, we will be sharing with everyone the recorded link of this webinar, so that even if those who could not join in, they could still see our webinar, the recorded one, through the YouTube link shortly tomorrow. And finally, I would like to thank all the panelists, moderator, and the IPMMI committee for initiating this webinar and sharing such detailed insights. We had more than 450 participants at one point in time, and it's all thanks to you all to because of you all, we saw that those participants joined in, and we look forward to see you all in our upcoming webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Instead of this, we are doing this.
Bye. Good evening, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.